Would you like it? So it's been 11 hours of playing.
Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed, but not read, by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
And we find ourselves once more amid the towering stacks of your library, and Kay, I'm back on my bullshit. It's costume time again.
Oh dear, what is the occasion this time?
Bears. It's bear season.
Yes.
I'm trying to find out more about these bears, and even though I haven't found any yet, and even though the only evidence that I've seen of them is the bear traps that you've left around,
yes,
and even though that you mentioned grizzlies and even black bears can be a little problematic, I remember how skittish I was about the Velociraptors and how great that turned out, because they're my new family now.
Yes.
Right? I'm besties with Guinevere. I made them a sort of habitual empire up on the rafters.
They're scared a few of the patrons, but yes.
Look, it's a circle of life.
That's the problem.
No
eating in the library.
Yeah. Unless they're bookworms, right?
Well, yes, those are fine.
Yes, okay, so there's the circle of life.
There's a circle of life involved in there, because we use the lead course for typesetting.
Circle of life. And so probably the bears, whatever they are, they're probably part of that. And I can probably befriend them with the same ease and effortlessness.
Let's hope so.
And yeah. So I think just like with my infiltration of Velociraptor society, step one should be costumes. The appropriate.
In historically speaking, putting bears in costumes has not really been a clever move. You know?
No, me.
Oh, you. Okay, go
Why
on.
would I can't even find the bears.
Well,
Keep up, Kay.
Okay, I'm just like making sure that like you don't go places you shouldn't go. And I'm not just talking about aisle 25Z.
I didn't know that there were letters on the aisles as well.
It's like a spreadsheet. It happens when you go deep enough into the library.
I want to show you. So, I'm actually standing on the shoulders of giants.
We have giants as well now. Is there another infestation?
Good Lord. Have you ever heard of a Canadian gentleman called Roy Hurtubise?
I don't think I have.
He's also known as the Bear Suit Man.
Oh, yes, him. Yes.
Yes.
The titanium suit made so he could go out in the wilderness and fight bears, I believe.
Well, no, just...
Was fighting not the objective?
No, it wasn't. It was exactly the same goal that I have, to essentially infiltrate bears and to be able to hang out with bears. And bears like to they're a little rough and tumble, and they like to do a little horseplay. And if you're a fragile, soft-boned human, you just come apart at the seams as soon as they give you a little whack.
Tough love.
Yeah. Well, they're big, strong animals.
Yeah, definitely.
And so he had a variety of exosuits, each of which he rigorously tested. One of the tests was rolling down a hill.
Yeah, one of them was getting slammed in with a tree trunk, I believe.
Yes, after the incident. But so he made it up to Mark 7, all of which were like privately funded, and I think it was before the age of GoFundMe.
Yeah.
He has regrettably left this world, and we are the poorer for his absence.
Was there a bear involved in him shuffling the mortal coil?
I don't believe he has ever actually tussled with a bear. He was a responsible scientist and engineer, but he would provide the empty suit to some bears to play with.
And see how it holds up. I mean, I've seen footage of a guy who literally has a pet grizzly.
Whoa.
Or was it a polar bear? One of the two. Either he makes you think like, I'm not sure how clever an idea it is. But he just tussles and rolls about with it in the backyard, and they're fine. The bear apparently knows what it can and can't do. Of course, that's one that was hand raised from a cub. So
now that is kind of what I want to grow toward. But so
don't go stealing bear cubs. Their mothers get really upset.
Is this a reference to something?
No.
Okay.
It's just generally good advice.
Good advice. Hey, for the readers at home, this is your PSA. Don't steal bear cubs. Yes. Their mothers don't like it.
And I should warn you, if you spot a bear rug somewhere, I don't have any bear rugs. So So that's probably a drop bear.
Oh, they come in from the northerlies.
Yes, that's the one. As we learned from Oglaf.
Very good.
Sometimes I have a window open and, they kind of blow in.
And one of those drop bears just sort of...
That's the one, yeah.
Oh, I want to meet one. They're probably really cuddly.
They do tend to try and chew on your head if they manage to drop on top of you.
Which will be fine once I'm wearing the
Mark 8.
Yes, well, the Mark 8 is... I mean, it's
Mark
an interim model. Yeah, okay, maybe let's call it that, because I think the basic structure, if you'll stand back or come around the corner, if you'll stand back, here we go. I think the basic structure is really quite impressive. You can see that it's got a lot of...
It's massive.
Yeah,
what's it made out of?
Yeah, okay, so toilet roll and paper mache at the moment. But no, proof of concept. Just a proof of concept just to get the design, because look at the mobility in the elbows.
Amazing.
I am worried about maybe there's too much mobility and maybe a bear grabs and twists it
I
off.
like the hand extensions as well, so giving
Thank
you the
you.
big finger things.
Yes, I was very pleased with those. Because
Also toilet rolls, but, it's still...
Yeah. Well, it's very heavy. I don't have any, like, powered servos or anything,
No.
so...
And making it out of lead probably wouldn't work very well either, simply because a bear would just go like oink, oink, oink and kind of bend
crush.
it.
Yeah, and
like,
crush.
it's not really got
Let's
the
say
structural integrity. Plus, it would be even heavier.
So do you have any ideas for a material? Because I think the basic design of the Mark 8 is okay.
Cardboard's out.
I mean, it already is cardboard.
You could like use the metal L frames from the archival racks. I mean, they already have the holes drilled into them for convenient connecting.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So that makes like the exo frame.
Yes.
Sort of like Ellen Ripley in Aliens.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be great.
I don't have any yellow paint though, but that's...
I'll work something out.
Yes, you usually do.
Thank you. So it still needs some cladding though, because the power lifter
to get you
was
away
sort
from
of
the
open
bears.
framed.
No, I get that. So I'm trying to think like what we could use to get you to protect it from bears.
And like bear teeth and bear claws.
Yeah, well, it's just a matter of like making the holes small enough, or just you far enough away from the surface that even with their claws and teeth they couldn't get through.
Exactly.
Just like an air gap.
There's all of these air vents overhead. I'm sure we don't need all of those.
You mean the aluminium ducting?
Yeah.
Did you make a ladder yet? Because I think they're a little bit too high up.
I have no shortage of ladders. They keep growing back. If you'll recall, we established this in Canon many episodes ago.
Yes,
Isn't that convenient? So I can just sort of tape them together and make a ladder up to heaven. So yes, that obstacle has been taken care of.
As long as it doesn't mess with the air conditioning system of the library, because we have to maintain the correct temperature and humidity throughout the entire library. So we don't want to get any hot or cold spots.
Well, there is one spot where it matters less, and that is the section dedicated to 17th century Norwegian romance novels.
Yes, just as long as you make sure that the suction in that area, so the blowing in is fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like we want to cover it up anyway.
Yes.
So I'll just. Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Yes, I'll take down those the aluminum. Aluminium. No, I say aluminum.
It is aluminum. It should have been aluminium, but it is aluminum.
And the international community does indeed insist on aluminium. But the gentleman who discovered this element called it aluminum, and I'm of the school of thought that if you discover something, you get to name it whatever the fuck you want.
Although, exactly how did he discover it? Because it very rarely occurs in its pure form in nature, and
it's always bauxite.
Exactly, or aluminium oxide at the very least. So I'm not actually sure when aluminum was discovered, quote unquote.
You actually make a good point, because I don't know what it means to discover an element. Like, do you have to be able to isolate it? Do you have to be able to study its individual properties? Or is it enough to know that it is there on the periodic table? Also,
no, that's just theorizing it, like that it's there. Yeah. It's like you can go like, okay, we have this, and we assume it has these qualities or these quantities, and like, sometimes it works out, and sometimes it's not. I mean, atomic numbers can usually be predicted fairly accurately. Although sometimes you get a different isotope is the one that that turns out to be the dominant one. But especially with aluminum oxide, it's very hard to isolate.
Did the discovery of aluminum precede or follow the establishment of the periodic table by the brilliant Russian scientist Mendeleev?
I don't know when Mendeleev did. I mean, I know that aluminum was already in use in Napoleonic times, because he had a set of aluminum cutlery, which was reserved only for the high SS. Everybody else had to do with gold. Yeah. And literally at that point, it was more than worth its weight in gold. It also helps that it's very light, but even
it's light and sturdy, and and it doesn't oxidize, or at least it oxidizes, but who cares? Because that forms a protective sheath around the rest of the metal, and doesn't degrade the quality of the metal.
Yes, you can break that down if you use gallium, but you don't want to get gallium and aluminum involved at the same time.
I don't think you want gallium on your cutlery anyway.
Well, there's that, but Speaking of metals, how about we try to talk about the book, which this podcast is ostensibly about?
Yes. Excellent transitional material there. Definite contender for the Podcast Segway Award of 2018.
Which are also made out of metal.
So what do we have in store for our readers this week?
It is by Hugo, Nebula, and Campbell Award winner, so not for this book, Barry B. Longyear.
Yes.
It is the Naked Came the Robot.
Yeah, I love those. From best-selling author such and such, or Hugo Award-winning author such and that. So yeah, they won those authors, but not Not for this one.
If it's a first edition, then that's fine, because it hasn't had a chance to win these yet. But like, if it's a reprint and it's still on the cover, then you go like, okay, maybe this one was not so good.
Yeah, because they'd brag more about it. Yeah, so naked came the robot, and there's a lot going on this cover. And for the readers at home, if you look down at your podcasting device, you should be seeing the cover of today's book. And otherwise, you can check the show notes for an image and a link, because boy howdy, the title sure wasn't lying.
Well, she's not technically naked, draped in the flag, which I'm only just starting to realize that there is actually something written on the flag.
Ah, yes, much as there is on the banners in the background. In the background, we have a lot of people clad in metal or straight-up robots, and a lot of them are holding up banners saying unfair, which I think is what the female-bodied robot, all shiny and chrome.
Yeah, I can see that how it starts with unf and
see,
whatever.
It's unf.
Well, that's going to be appropriate later in the story.
It sure is, but yeah, it looks like. I mean, it is a flag. It has a flagpole that she's wielding. She's standing there with a hip cocked and all clad in chrome. And
yeah, I think the artist took a few liberties.
Are you
here
going to say liberties? Yeah, you are, aren't you?
to fairly common theme in.
Certainly in the books
in
that we
covers.
Yeah.
Yes. I think the painter of this picture omitted a few details of the robot body, which are quite relevant to the story, I would say.
Well, certainly they are. I just imagine that maybe there's variable cladding or, port covers. But yeah, the figure on the front is there's an actual word for it, gynoid.
Oh?
So android is a man-like. And gynoid is woman-like. So
I had no idea.
Yeah, the original cinematic robot from Fritz Lang's Metropolis in 1930.
Definitely gynoid. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know there was a sexual distinction between female-presenting and male-presenting robots, because
it's the old thing where man stands for humanity as well. So we also have a synonymous synopsis. Yeah, that's transitional material.
Bring it on.
Courtesy of friend of the library, Old Pines. Find him on Twitter, old_Pines. He's a writer in his own right, and he does these really cool writing prompts and short fictions every now and again. They're really fun. Who contributed the synopsis that was strangely missing from our copy of the book.
Yes.
A botched back alley transition leaves Victor's mind in the chassis of a sexbot, decommissioned for accidentally killing users. Now she must fight for love against a dying planet, a crumbling society, and the unpredictable destructive strength of her synthetic muscles.
Starting in media res with our protagonist waking up in the new body and it not being exactly what they expected.
It's a bit of body horror, really, because the protagonist is kind of surprised at the condition that he finds himself in.
It's kind of like when you go to your phone and you look at like how healthy is my battery. The recharge battery health of this thing is this many %, and you know, like, okay, so it's that much of what it used to be. And he, let's go with them, has this for all parts of their body, being a robot thing. They have very good inventory of like, okay, ankle joints operating at 35% efficiency.
Yeah, just a full body system check.
And a rather detailed list of sensual organs as well, which are also
a lot of them.
And absolutely.
Like not just detailed, but just a whole bunch of sex organs.
Internal cleaning mechanisms, just occasionally pour some new detergent and water in and eliminate the old stuff. It's all surprisingly biological in the way the whole process is described for this robot.
This was particularly surprising for our protagonist because he's used to like observing these status checks on his home computer monitor for his prosthetic leg that he thought he was getting replaced. And so when he went under for the replacement, having saved up for a much better leg, he's rather surprised that
he now has them for him, her, essentially them.
There's just been a full body replacement, is what he assumes in the first place, which would be silly.
It's not what he paid for.
It's like that sort of nightmare scenario that you have that I don't know if it's ever happened, where due to misfortune you need to have a limb amputated, and then you go under and you wake up with the wrong one.
It has happened, not to me personally.
Well, no, I can do a quick limb count on you.
Yes, I mean I know that in certain hospitals, that's right before they go under, they're asked to confirm, it's like this is the one, and like I've seen people like writing down taking markings, not this one,
and
stuff like that going on. It's like it's also happened with someone's testicles, like going in to get one removed, and like turns out that they grabbed the wrong one.
Because they could twist around in a little ball bag.
Well, that too, I suppose. But
I guess.
I mean, I would say like the higher or the lower one, because like they never hang at the same level.
No, that's true. I guess that's harder to tell when you're lying back on a surgical bed.
I suppose it also depends on how cold the table is.
there's an entirely different level of surprise when you wake up and like your whole body is different. Where
Now robotized, yes.
Yeah, he's looking down at. I say he. Actually, I think I want to like continue with he for a little bit until we get to the point in the story where he really starts embracing this.
Well, Victor is generally not considered to be a feminine name.
I'm also pretty convinced that he identified as male and that it was a cis gentleman because there is this weird clueless trope in Hollywood and television and literature about people, usually men, discovering their gender identity is different after they might first wear a dress. I believe that was the case in Twin Peaks.
Oh, I'd never actually watched all of that.
Oh, there was an incredibly progressive transgender character played by David Duchovny.
Oh, okay.
Which was handled very well. You know, in her previous life as a male presenting agent, they'd worked together, her and Carl McLaughlin's character, and he was a real tough guy. And then in walks his old partner, and it's a woman with long hair, and she goes, "Oh, I go by Dana now." And Carl McLaughlin's response is, "Okay,
yeah, cool." I mean, there's another brilliant one in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Well, Jadzia. I mean,
Jadzia, yeah, exactly. When one of her old Klingon friends goes, "Curzon, my old friend," and it's like, "Oh, actually, it's Jadzia now. Jadzia, my old friend." And it's like, without missing a beat, it's brilliant.
But I don't believe that Victor has ever suffered body dysmorphia over his body. But so I can understand why. I mean, there's many reasons to be shocked when you wake up in a body other than your own. Certainly, if it's chrome, it's got boobs all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. It's got this heads-up display. He wakes up in the body of the sexbot CL30P40R4 or Cleopatra.
Generally referred to as Peter.
What?
Never mind.
How do you get from Cleopatra to Peter?
Never mind. If you read E's instead of 4s, instead of 3s, never mind.
That's not how lead speak works. No, tell me more.
It'll work.
Tell me more.
It'll work damn way as well as I want it to work. I mean, I would say I'm dyslexic, but that doesn't work on numbers.
Pardon me. Our Victor, now Cleopatra, sits up and looks around for the culprit, the back alley cybernetic surgeon who goes by the name of Cybjorn Cyborg. Okay,
yes.
Just the right moment to drop that one.
Do that when I'm sipping my whiskey. Thank you very much for that one.
So Cybjorn Cyborg comes dashing in, knocking things over as he's trying to pack his bag, and Victor tries to seize this man. And what the heck have you just done with me? I love that he was so soft spoken.
Ah, yes.
There's all these minced oaths.
Cybjorn is almost as angry as he is apologetic. Victor forgot the first rule of going in for surgery, which is like be fucking sober. He aspirated his morning scrambled eggs into his lungs when he was intubated, and he went into full cardiac arrest and had his conscience dumped into a robot body rather than have his own saved.
Which I thought, like, Cybjorn was kind of like Johnny on the spot there, that he just had this ready, but...
Well, it was like...
I think it's mostly that they pay on delivery, and so if the patient dies, no payment is made.
That's a good point. I was more concerned with why he had Cleopatra's body lying around.
Well, that was kind of sinister when Cybjorn Cyborg explained that. This body was brought to him for recycling.
Because its former AI, which had been inhabiting it, had gone off the rails.
So it had to have the brain pulled.
And by law, it has to all be destroyed just because people go like, oh, but this is the body that did horrible things. I mean, it's like people have trouble buying a house someone died in, you know? I think even in certain US states, you have to legally declare it when you're selling a house that someone died here if it was within the last few years or something like that, because it's considered to be a condition.
Because it's bad juju otherwise.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I suppose it also depends on how a person died there. If it was a violent murder, then it would be different from like someone peacefully dying in their sleep.
Speaking of violent murder, I mean, that's kind of the scene we're treated to as Cybjorn descends on Victor's previous tabernacle and starts hacking it apart to try and retrieve as many like recyclable organs and body parts.
Yes.
Because I'm making a huge loss on you and I've got a terrible problem here, but at least maybe I can turn a slight profit on the meat market.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a demand for healthy organs, and I suppose that other than the fact that Victor had his brain fried due to his cardiac arrest.
Yeah, lungs, no bueno.
Yeah, lungs, but, you know, kidneys and liver and stuff like that.
Probably okay.
Yeah, they don't keep a transplantation heart beating, so the fact that the heart stops doesn't really make much of a problem. It's the brain death that's the problem.
Exactly. Like it's just a wired muscle.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that it's a miraculous organ, of course, but it's kind of a gruesome scene and kind of almost like a comedy of manners where they're arguing about the finer points of the sales contract while Cybjorn is dumping bags of dry ice onto this corpse and like sawing it apart.
I mean, and Victor goes like, I came here to get my leg replaced. And Cybjorn goes like, you've got a new leg, haven't you?
This is the most extreme case of caveat emptor that I've ever seen, and it is disrupted by the sudden appearance, literally bursting through the wall of a rather similar gynoid crashing through the wall that is B0D1CC4 or Boudica.
Yes.
Who yells revolution and donkey punches Cybjorn.
At this point, the book goes into how the robot unrest has been playing up in the story, and especially this place. And Boudica is here to rescue Cleopatra from her fate, not knowing that the sentence has already been
executed.
Executed? Is that
the
word?
You execute
the
sentence.
I was going to say commuted, but that's the other opposite.
No,
that's
when you don't
commuted. Yes.
Poor Victor is horribly confused, but when you have a giant chrome aggressive robot face hovering over you, you become
with an oddly tender expression in her eyes.
Yeah, caressing her own
you're all right,
chrome-plated
darling,
cheek.
and it's a good thing you're still fine and you're all right. I would destroy the city if ever anything came to befall you. And you go like, okay,
definitely me.
Thank you for coming to rescue me. He manages to stammer out, and okay, let's roll with this because I'm in trouble if like things are not going the way she thinks they are.
Yeah, I once had a rather poor reaction to it was called a dab. It was a marijuana reduction.
Oh yes,
like it's not my thing, even though it's legal over here. So I wasn't very experienced with it, and it came on pretty strong.
It's very easy to overdose on those.
Yeah, and so I was experiencing what I believe is called the Biggie Smalls, where your sort of perspective changes, and I saw like the world at once shrink and grow more distant, and sounds like all of that.
Very
was
small,
sort of,
far away.
Yeah, it was going very fast, and they were then telling this story about the last time that they had a friend over for a dab, or years and years ago, who then had a total freak out and insisted that he be taken to a hospital. And suddenly, like this face comes right up at me. Are you okay? And he says, don't pull a Dave and ask us to take you to the hospital. I'm like, okay, so hospital's not an option. Cool. How else are we going to deal with this? I cannot.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So I can totally understand what Victor was going through. It was like, okay, yes, I guess I'm Cleopatra now. Here we go. And Boudica and Cleopatra rush through the crushed door and into the night city.
It's a brief run through the city. I mean, Victor is completely aware of it, but he's like shown a side of the society that he's completely not used to. There's an agricultural transition to a planetary power grid because simply enough, there's a big environmental collapse going on.
This is a trope that occurs in a lot of science fiction, like the idea that the environment can collapse and yet still that life can continue somehow.
Well,
like
life
that
will continue. That's the thing. It just might not be the kind of life that we would like. You know, we're not going to like eliminate life on the planet, even if
but multicellular life.
Even that, I doubt that.
We're all dependent on the oxygen cycle, and if the entire ecosystem collapses, the food chains collapse.
Oh yeah,
then oxygen goes as well.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure. And the whole basically the fact that he can be transferred into robot bodies, it's happening more and more. People trying to get their conscious uploaded, basically.
Oh yeah, the very popular service of the Airbnb body.
Oh yes,
where you can briefly inhabit somebody else's body, and it was something that that Victor was considering signing up for as well.
Yes.
Try an athlete for a week with two human legs.
Yes.
Or by the same token, like offering his own body for somebody else to rent for a little while.
Isn't there a movie about that? Is it Face Off? No, Face Off is a different one. It's the one.
Yes, Face Off is not about that.
It's similar about that, but there's another one where
Altered Carbon.
Is that the one? I'm thinking a slightly older one where there's literally a body swapping thing because like I need to be in America and someone else needs to be here, so we do it body swap for a day. I remember there's a scene where a guy makes off with his body and they go like, oh well, we can't let you keep that one because that's not yours. But where's mine? No, that's not our problem. Just look at the fine print. But he's talking to this hugely fit guy who's just talking to him like the CEO of the company, where in the corner of the room there's this fat middle-aged dude sweating it on a treadmill. And so he just swapped bodies with his personal trainer, and he's now using the personal trainer's body while the personal trainer is over there working his body. And I thought that was such an amazing thing, because you get these people who are like exercise junkies and it's like, yes, please go take my body and like fucking can exercise in it while I'll just like do something else.
And the sense of accomplishment that one might be able to derive from that if one were so inclined.
Well, yeah, that too. And I suppose you could still, the person who's originally from the body would still get to enjoy the endorphins without actually having to like, go actually and experience the work themselves. I mean, I don't mind exercise, except like I find like going to the gym terribly boring.
Yes,
and that's my problem with it.
Here's what I sort of relate it to. I mean, I don't clear up a whole lot at home, but if I have occasion to clear up for somebody else, it's immensely satisfying.
Oh, okay. Yes, I get the same with cooking. It's much more satisfying to cook for someone else than just for yourself.
There's nobody to impress.
Yeah, when you got people coming over, then you'd like to make sure that it's good for them.
So hence the popularity of Airbnb body in this world, but with the imminent environmental collapse, a lot of people are opting for full body transfers.
Yes, exactly. And that consciousness is generally being shifted over from the meat world into the digital world. And like consequences, like simply not enough babies are being born, and like human population is on decline. And
hence the profitability of the meat market.
Yeah, and
that the existing bodies can be propped up with fresh organs.
And increasing robotization, much more people are just deciding to spend their life as a robot, or even entirely uploading into just the cloud. The cloud is just someone else's.
It was a very good book. This, I thought.
Oh, it was.
Barry B. Longyear. Like he had a real grip on future technologies.
Quite the visionary.
We learn most about that when Boudica takes Cleopatra to the underground robot peace rally.
Yes,
where Boudica gives a rousing speech decrying the criminal nature of the 914 laws of robotics. Because Asimov was a real optimist when he thought that three would be enough.
Good. Yes, that was like, and especially the whole unfairness that, like, I mean, most of those laws were written back in the time when robots were still servants, and these days most robots are now actually inhabited by human consciousness, and they go like, but all these laws are still like applied to us, but we're like, just because we switched bodies now suddenly we're servants. And that was a bit of an unfortunate ruling by the Supreme Court, which said like, oh no, those laws are still valid, and everybody goes like, but you could have told us that before we got transferred into robots, and which also explains why Victor is so upset, because he definitely did not sign up for this procedure. Yeah,
he's kind of the bridge between these two rival peace protests that are going on. One of them about robot rights for robots who
original robots.
Yes. Yeah, but whose cognitive capabilities are essentially sentient. And why should there be any discrimination when even a good Turing test can't distinguish between a human consciousness occupying a robot body and a robot AI occupying a robot body?
Which is one of the things that I mean, especially a sexbot like Victor now will often say is like, hey baby, do you want to have a good time? I just got Turing tested.
Yeah. It's at this point that he starts to feel the effect of his sexbot body when one of his cool genitals is remotely activated. The "fuck you, fuck me" module, if you recall. Have you ever heard of this?
Well, I read the book, but please describe it to our readers.
I thought this was land better because this was a gag in the early 2000s. The website is still out there. Like, look it up. Fuck you, fuck me is what it's called. Pardon me for swearing, but that's what it's called.
I never saw that.
It's a 5¼ inch bay that comes in two variants, and one of them has a Jesus, okay. One of them has a protrusion, and one of them has an input port. And the idea was that you and
over
your
the internet,
would be, and that like your input would be their output, and then both of you could.
I've seen those, but I've never heard of the website. I've seen like renders. I don't think nobody ever came around to making an actual.
Of course not. It's absurd.
Yes. Speaking of which, what does a robot gigolo do when he wants to ditch a client?
I don't know. Okay, what does a robot gigolo do when he wants to ditch a client?
He nuts and bolts.
One of the lesser crimes for which some of these robot-bodied citizens or robots in general are on trial at the court where these rival peace protests are protesting for robot rights. Including Cleopatra, who is a bit of a poster girl at this point because she was going to be executed simply for
killing her clients.
Yeah. The playback, though, I mean, okay, so she's very strong, and that's why that she was a very popular model sexbot.
Yes.
Because this one, as the promotional copy goes to 11.
Ah, yes.
And it was very popular among sex weirdos who wanted more and more extremes, and one of them happens to have the appropriate access codes to disable her safety restraints.
Ah, yes. Why do people put that bullshit in? I suppose it's like a factory test thing, but it's a popular trope, especially in Star Trek, disable the holodeck safety protocol or whatever it's called. And
those kind of shackles are pretty important, I think, if you're developing some human interaction system that is potentially human lethal.
Yes, and having your penis pinched off can be lethal if you don't.
Yeah, if that's the genital configuration that you're into.
That's what happens when you turn off the safety protocols and you say harder.
Which apparently for the first person to try it was quite successful and quite enjoyable. But then they passed on the codes to some of their friends. Say, you got to give this a try. And by the time it was leaked, and quite a number of people died in the process of enjoying Cleopatra's.
That's why you don't leave your password setting set to default for every unit that comes out of the factory. You don't give them the same default password.
Alpine, or guess. This is the case for so many what is called the Internet of Things, Internet of Shit, as some people like to call it, where these smart bulbs, smart
and they all
fridges,
have the same default
root
password.
passwords that you can just get in, you jack in with the USB keyboard, and you're good to go.
Even often online, it's like
remotely.
Google even indexes them for you if you know what to look for, and then you just go like, okay, this one, and you try the password, and 9 out of 10 times it works because nobody bothered to change it. It's insane. You shouldn't do that. You should VPN it at the very least.
As the robot protesters have all done, hence the inability of the United Nations Federated Authority in Retreat, or UNFAIR, the titular unfair.
Yes.
The authority to which these rival protests are protesting are unable to shut them down remotely as they'd like to, because they all reset
all
their
these robots
passwords.
Have been like, they've or done it on each other, I suppose. I mean, you can have another robot do it on you, and that's fine. It's a bit of a bonding experience, really.
Yes, you can have a little daisy chain.
Ooh. Well, as long as there's a free port around.
So they're in quite a pickle. Victor is pushed to the foreground.
Yes, because Boudica is going like, okay, you do your thing, the thing you do so well. He's just like, okay.
Knowing that he's supposed to be impersonating Cleopatra, and that Cleopatra has has sort of a martyr story, who was rescued at the last minute, but he doesn't quite know the details, so he's racking his cyber brain to try and remember if there's anything there left of Cleopatra that he could say. At which point, the lights in the street dim, because it turns out that Cleopatra was a rather an advanced model that Cybjorn was working on. She was a cyborg.
Ah.
She had her Wi-Fi module turned up to 11 as well.
So it could actually interface with the human brains around her.
Yeah. And able to convey, this whole weird story, like Victor's own story of having accidentally woken up in Cleopatra's body, and his own body is gone, and he's here now, and he has to deal with this.
And he's not a different person. I mean, he's got a different body, but I guess it's making a strong point of you are your thoughts, I suppose. Or why did my rights suddenly change because I'm now in a robot body rather I'm still the same person?
And at the same time, also channeling the remnants of Cleopatra's experience that he accesses as he explores this new part of his cyber brain.
Yeah.
Like she was performing her functions. She essentially doing her job, which she liked.
Yes.
It's not her fault that somebody else took her restraints off, and that she was
very
good at her job, because she goes to 11. And you can shut yourself off against somebody else's story told through words. It's much harder when it's told through images, and it's almost impossible if you feel it along with them. And thanks to Victor Cleopatra's cyborg abilities,
yes, logging in, emoting it to the people, and later broadcasting it out over the power networks.
Yeah,
which everybody's connected to anyway.
The entire unfair gains this understanding that yes, these 914 laws of robotics need revision.
Yes.
And who can tell us better what they should be like than the robots who are going to have to live under them?
And we've got the declining population that the book deals with, and basically the society is being remodeled to make it that everybody lives in the computer world. And
so we're going to have to make the digital transition anyway.
Yes,
we
need to make sure that we have an infrastructure on the planet which will still support all the electricity and the computer systems, and somebody still needs to build and replace those whenever needed.
Naturally,
but I guess that's one way to deal with the collapsing of the environment, and it's just we'll just move to a different type of living.
Yeah, a lot of today's wealthy people like to imagine that we'll just move to a different planet, but that's not really...
Yeah, you'll have to launch 1 million people a day into space just to make a dent, something like that.
And also, like, the whole idea of colonizing other planets, like... Okay, not to get into it like super philosophical, but like all colonization that happened on Earth has always been mediated by poverty. It's always poor people get sent first with like a horse and a blanket, and you figure it out, and they build themselves a house, and they figure out how to till how to farm the local food.
To be honest, the exploration phase is usually the rich, idle people.
Oh yeah, and the military,
and that's where we're in right now with space. With space.
No, that is true.
So I mean,
you can't have like a frontier town on Mars because it costs $1 billion to get someone somewhere, and you have to build it. So what model that's going to follow, who knows? But so this idea of instead transforming ourselves to live within our means on an ecological scale.
To a point, it's like living in your means. If your means are computer power and electrical power, then it's fine. You know, it's like we just like put the solar plants in the Sahara and the space stations beaming the power back, or even just put the computational stuff in orbit.
And we can still build ourselves bodies so we can have some fun, and they can be kind of funky. So with this being the case, in the coda we see that Victor is offered a lifetime subscription to Airbnb since his own body was destroyed due to Cyborg's medical malpractice.
Yeah, which, I mean, he didn't technically have a license, so they're being very generous to granting him this lease, I suppose.
But I also like that he declines, that he's fine with staying in Cleopatra for a while, something that even Boudica appreciates, because she thinks that Cleopatra would have been quite proud of Victor.
Yes, I don't think she would have been. A lot of the human population are still working and designing to help make sure that the robot population, which they realize at this point that they too...
It's their future. Like, these are the new citizens of Earth.
Yeah, and that's the scene where they come in, walk into the bar, and then the barkeep...
Oh, yes, robots walk into the bar.
Yeah, and the barkeep goes like, "We don't serve robots in here." And she looks at him and stares him down and goes, "Someday you will."
Whoa. Yeah, very good.
Welcoming the robot overlords, which I kind of like that.
Oh, fuck, I just got it now. Oh, my God, I just got it now. We serve robots. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, it's been a little while since I've read the book. I must have just missed that when I read the book. And it includes with Boudica and Cleopatra slash Victor, and Boudica even asking her the question that we sort of started with. And so, what are your pronouns? How would you like to be addressed now? Yeah. And Victor Cleopatra says, "It's okay, because unlike most of us, I'm non-binary."
Yes. That was great. I love that.
Little robot joke right
very
there.
Well thrown in there. Yeah, no, very good. It was a very enjoyable book.
I thought so too. I had a lot of fun with this book. It made a lot of sense. Surprisingly, you'd have thought it would just have been an exploitative little...
No, there was a lot of transhumanism points in there.
That had a lot to say that I really enjoyed.
It was a good book. I did enjoy
Good choice. So how are we going to rate this book?
I think we've done bits.
We've done bits and bytes.
We haven't done bytes yet, but that only gives us the option of 1 and 0. So, I mean, I'd give it a 1.
The opposite. A bit is 1 and 0. A byte is between 0 and 255.
Yes, that's whatever you mean. No,
byte is... do a nibble.
A nibble, which is... 4
bits.
No,
so that's 2 to the 4th, that's like 16. Out of 16. How do we rate this book out of 16?
Out of 16, I would give it...
I could have said 2 bytes and we would have known that too. Anyways.
Whatever, yes. I will give it I think I liked it quite a lot. I think I'd give it 15 out of 16.
Yes. I agree. I think Barry B. Longyear did a very good job. And now, as I'm saying this and realizing the concept of our podcast, I hope that none of the authors that we featured are like super duper racist. So if this turns out to be the case, then maybe I'll edit out my recommendation for Barry B. Longyear. But otherwise,
we'll see.
What do we have in store for our readers next week?
Yes. The next week's book is actually the sequel to last week's book, which was How to Read a Book. And next week we'll have Dan Wilbur's How Not to Read.
I'm sure he's got some tips for us.
Absolutely.
And that about covers it. Thank you for joining us at Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name's Khaki.
And I'm Kay. And remember,
we only judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you know the 3 laws of robotics. What would be the 4th that you think you should add?
Robotics. Don't hog the power socket.